What's going on, everybody? It's Ron Brown, LMT, the People's Fitness Professional, alongside my co-host.
Mikey Fever. It's Friday.
It's not only Friday. I was gone. I had pancreatitis. Everybody, we're gonna be talking about that next week with Dr. Inky, Minister Inky. Um, Excruciating pain. You don't want that kind of pain. You don't want that kind of pain. But anyway, I'm back on the show. I hope y'all liked the last show with Mike and Inky. It was dope, very informative. I watched it. Y'all got to tune in, man. To I know a lot of you brothers and sisters. Y'all like Sharif. He's a dope. You know, he's dope. He's dope at what he does. But you know, we got Dr. Paul Dyer too. You know what I'm saying? We got Dr. Inky too. We got a star-studded, you know what I mean, platform here. You know?
Exactly, man.
So today we're talking. Yeah, go ahead, Mike. My bad. I cut you off.
I said now we do have a star-studded platform.
We do. We really do. We're blessed. We're blessed. Thank you, Dr. Paul Dyer, for joining us once again. We want to go into emotional intelligence and trauma. Emotional intelligence and trauma. And this emotional intelligence piece in trauma was inspired by, this little episode I had with in the hospital or whatever, and I realized that a lot of what I'd done, growing up, it kind of caught up to me, my bad habits, bad health habits. And, basically what I used to do was emotional eating, dealing with things that I've experienced and seen and stuff like that. So I pick up alcohol, I smoke, and that's the way I used to cope with stuff. And so that's why I was, and guess what? I stopped doing that stuff, but it just caught up to me this, recently. So I say, you know what, let's talk about, emotional intelligence, trauma, because because pretty much because of my episode, Mike and I, we always have conversations about the past and what happened in our lives and things like that. And this is an important subject for the both of us. And I'm sure for anyone who is so-called black, they would feel the same. So
I like the way you put so-called.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I really think some people try to deny their black trauma. So I like the way you put so-called. Because if you're going to say that you are black or American African, then you should recognize that you have trauma. Mm-hmm. Period. It's like I ask most people, I say, you people who love their cars, and somehow a lot of black people love their cars, right? And I said, you wash your car more than you wash your brain. Mm-hmm. And that's what you can see on the outside.
Mm-hmm. Well, I, not to cut you off, but the reason why I say so-called, because, when you look at my skin, it's not black. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, I was referring to that more than anything. But as far as like, culturally, what we go through and things like that, I know I have trauma for sure. For sure.
So I do, if people are watching, I know people are watching live, and I hope people, if they have a question, that they just inbox you guys, and so we can read some of the questions or whatever they have, because I'll go really slow and we'll get some into this. So people have heard about emotional intelligence, and that's great. Some people have read about it, that's wonderful. But do they understand what they're talking about or understanding what they're reading? So I don't want to talk over people's heads until someone asks me a specific question. Emotional intelligence is the ability to identify, understand. The ability to identify and understand. So in simplistic terms, you identify a person as man, woman, and then the other question would be, well, what was the height? Well, I'm not sure. Well, what shirt were they wearing? I think it was this. Even in that as a physical form, it's very difficult for people to identify. When it comes to emotional intelligence, identifying means to know the shirt color, know the height, know male or female, know what, how length, to know what you identify. You have to know how to identify your emotions. You can't be somewhat kind of like, or maybe it was this. Because if you don't identify, then those things you miss are those things will harm you. Those things you miss are those things that harm you. Those things you are misidentifying about yourself. And this is where self-awareness training comes in. You have to be trained to be aware of self. You just can't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to start recognizing the things I am and would like to be. No, because your mind is a monkey mind, and it's going to play the tricks on you to misidentify yourself, because it doesn't want you to recognize what you have failed at, because it causes pain. It doesn't want you to recognize your sadness and points, because that will cause you pain. It doesn't want to see that you are weak in X or Y or Z areas, because that causes pain. Your mind does not want to cause you pain, but your brain will still formulate the chemical of the absence, even though your mind is hiding the pain. So you don't want to think about an ex-girlfriend or an ex-boyfriend because it causes you pain. You not thinking about it still releases the chemicals that causes the pain in the body. Whether you know it or not, it still has an effect on the body, which if you don't recognize it, which Ron brought up so eloquently, your past will come up again because you did not recognize it. So it goes and hide inside the body. It goes and hide inside your different organs. It goes and hide in different pockets that once your brain and mind start to come together to start to heal itself, those hidden issues will start to come out of the body. And that's the effect of not identifying your emotions. It will come out. It will come out in sickness. It's going to come out in heightened awareness. It's going to come out in depression. It's going to come out in sadness. It's going to come out because it's been neglected. So wherever the trauma was caused, whatever age it was caused at, it timestamps it. If trauma happened to you at 6 and now you're 46, it's 40 years of being hidden. If you had trauma at 10 and now you're 50, 40 years of being hidden. So when you release that trauma, it's got to circumvent and come through 40 years of being left behind and not ever acknowledged. It's going to have a lot of, if you leave me for 40 years and say, oh, now here I come back for you, I'm going to have some animosity. I want to make sure you feel it all the way through. So that's where that pain's going to come from. And it could come out in the sickness. It could come out in damaging of health. It could come out in, mental disturbance. But it's got to come out. Once you start recognizing it, it's got to come out. So emotional intelligence is first to identify. Then it's to understand. You have 3 phases. You have identify, understand, and then manage. You cannot manage something that you don't understand. You cannot manage something if you don't fully identify. You cannot fully understand something until you fully identify. So that's the first 3 with emotional intelligence. Identify, understand, and manage.
That's beautiful. I see what you're saying with, as you mentioned, people do become suspended within that trauma period in their life. It's like a person that goes to prison. They will do the time where the time is actually doing them because they suspended at the time that they got picked up at. That's the trauma right there. So when they come out, they thinking that they could do the same things. They trying to reacclimate to society, but they, behind on time.
They call that arrested development.
That's a development. So that's it falls under that umbrella. So I see what you're saying, and it's true, man. If you don't have the emotional intelligence, first and foremost, the knowledge of yourself, being honest with yourself, knowing yourself inside and out, how can you address an issue? Unless you're being naive to address the elephant in the room. So I get what you're saying, doctor.
But one of the things I think people fail to realize, and I think maybe it's a social system has said to some black men, many black men, you don't be weak inside the self, and all this hormones of testosterone bullcrap, right? I don't know how far back you can want it to go to that type of living, but it's been generational, and that generation has passed on. It's a curse, which is why we are not able to have collective communication with ourselves, because we collectively don't know, or we're not self-aware. So we find things offensive. If you find something offensive, ask yourself, why is it offending you? What is it that you have not identified about yourself that you feel something is offending you? Now, I know somebody could be thinking out there, they're like, yo, nigga, yo, boy, and it's coming from European white, right? And you feel offended. Ask yourself, what is the offense? Is it the name they're calling you, or is it the name you're answering to?
I would say the initial disrespect.
Yeah, but now we have to clarify, is it your respect that they know nothing of, or is it their respect that they know little about? Without it being a clear understanding, it could be more a misunderstanding. So what we're saying is that people are just supposed to know when they're disrespecting you, when they don't even know who you are. Only you know who you are, so only you can answer to something that you prefer to be called by or to answer to.
Or feel disrespected by.
Right, because you can call me nigga this all day long. I don't feel disrespected because you're not talking to me. I won't answer to that. It's only if I respond to that, I'm responding to something about me that's causing me to not manage an emotion that I have not identified. and because I haven't identified, I'm going to react in a certain negative way to said person.
Right. So I want to go with that's well said. I want to go with defining emotional intelligence and trauma. Right. What is emotional intelligence and why is it important? And I think we went over this some episodes ago. But for those who are new to Dr. Paul Dyer, let's talk about it. What is emotional intelligence and why is it important?
So trauma refers to also a distressing, disturbing experience that overwhelms the individual to have the ability to cope. That's trauma. Basically, your deep distress, pain that you have not been able to cope with. That is what you call trauma. That trauma can be buried because you feel you don't have the time, or it could be recognized and then you could pull it apart, and this way it doesn't have a timestamp on your organs. Now the effects of emotional intelligence. Let's just say first you have identified, and now you understand it. You understand where your trauma comes from. Dealing with said identification and understanding, now we can apply it to how I feel about things that trigger my deeply distressed, disturbing experience. Because it comes up. We'll say my ex-wife, every time she raised her hand, I felt like I was getting hit, right? So now I apply that to any other woman who I feel is similar. If they raise their hand, I'm going to feel like I'm going to be hit because of the trauma. Once I identify that trauma and I don't apply it to a woman who similar reminds me of, she could just be raising her hand to ask me a question or raising her hand because she's trying to get someone else's attention. Either one, I have to identify what that trigger is doing to me, not what she plans to do with her hand. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So again, a woman who similarly looks like my ex-wife raises her hand. It could trigger me not wanting to be hit. And how do I identified it? Now I can manage it because now I understand what the trigger is. It's a woman who's similar, looks like my wife, reminds me, and it causes a anxious feeling, upset feeling. So that's how that works. And it works with all things seen, thought, smelled, heard, the good smell. We talked about grandmother's cornbread, whatever it is, those things trigger an event. An event means a past experience because it cannot trigger. I have to feel like I shouldn't have to say it, but it cannot trigger a now, and it cannot trigger a future. So the trigger only triggers an experience means past. Ask yourself if it's triggering a past, that means you're not living in the now. So it's pulling you backwards. That's the effects of trauma. It pulls you back. It does not allow you to be present in the now.
Okay. Brother Mike, you trying to say something? Yeah, go ahead.
Oh man, I'm just listening. Like, wow, I'm over here like processing what he's saying.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'm just taking it in because I pause. No Diddy. but I'm just processing what he's saying because I'm gonna be candid. It took time for me to go through that. That personally, I had to go. I processed a few things myself growing up. Went through the whole counseling thing. You understand? Mm-hmm. And I learned things like growing up. I knew how to process my emotions, but I didn't know how to manage them, when to express them. I was, constantly misunderstood. So it took me time to really sit down and learn that, with proper breathing, I'm able to process things and understand that this person may not be coming from that perspective of being disrespectful. Why am I taking it as offense? I got to hear out first because, a big difference between responding and reacting. So I had to learn how to utilize those two. You understand? It's to respond, not to react, and understand that, a person probably is not being offensive. It's something in there that they're saying that I need to check. Accountability. That's all I'm gonna say.
Sometimes now, and I get that, right? And I like that you got that from what he said, but this is what I got from it. Mm-hmm. Not allowing outside things to affect your inner.
Yes, most important. That's the most important.
Because it's about what people project, whatever they're going through on
Mhm.
other people, and you just can't allow it because it's really not about you. It's about whatever they're dealing with. But if
Exactly.
you allow it to affect you,
Oh yeah.
now it's something that you're dealing with inside of yourself.
Exactly. 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 And you got it. And as Paul Dyer said, so not cut you off, doctor, but it's the so-called, what we call the black experience in this country. All those need to be factored in, and what we learn from home, what we see at home is generational. There was times in growing up, I didn't know how to cry. It's till I got in my late teens, 20s, I learned how to, because before that, I didn't see my parents cry, really. You understand? So I was like, okay, maybe you just take it on the chin. This is what life is about.
Yeah,
You got to be strong, and understand that this is what's gonna happen to you. And you let it out another way. Either you go work out, you go have a drink, you go party or something. But that ping on your side is still there. You understand? You got to address it because it's only gonna fester. So you know,
I think one of the things that Ron brought up earlier is he said that he's been thinking about this because he went through some health things, and as a person, I know it's difficult to think about this to be self-aware in any instance, but it really comes up when you are struggling with no matter what. It could be paying your next rent. It could be um, illness is a big one because I know it even I have to. It's not like I don't work on it every day. Being military, working through PTSD, all the things I am working on constantly is understanding, identifying, to manage. If those threes don't sink in, is I have identified, which is just phenomenal. So I'm okay with crying. I'm okay with feeling sad. I'm okay with feeling depressed because yes, they are two different things. Um, I'm okay with it, and I'm okay with working on my techniques to stabilize myself so I can feel my emotions so it does not push me into a buried hole where I feel like I just want to give up and take my life. So understanding that and identifying that, it allows you to manage, not control. Stop it. This is not about control. Matter of fact, if people think I can control my emotions, you're already losing. You you cannot control emotions. Period. Period. You can't control it.
I mean,
You can
what do you
only
say? I'm going to cut you off, but what do you say to people who would disagree with that? Being that, when you feel like you feel an emotion, then you kind of shut it down, I guess.
right. You can it's it's like shutting the door. It's like having a gas leak in your house and you close the door to the room and you put a blanket there. Just because you don't smell the gas doesn't mean it's not seeping into the house. You have to stop where the gas leak was. Period. I mean, this is chemistry. You cannot control the chemistry of the brain by blocking it. It's going to fire, it's going to trigger, it's going to create other things in your body, and you're not going to know what that is until it explodes. Stomach pain, back pain, right? Taste buds, allergies, urinary tract infections, bowel movements. All these are triggered because if trauma is not affected, you trigger stress hormones. Stress hormones affects the liver, the spleen, the kidney, the heart, the stomach, the liver. Okay, so you pushing it down just triggers stress hormones to become very overactive. And it just, now you're sending bad people around your body to cause all kinds of disturbance. And it's only a matter of time before something, some corner of your body, some street corner in your internal life is going to be demolished, burnt out. I mean, I'm painting a picture for some of these people, right? And you walk by some of these buildings that back in the day, you're like, how can a person live on this block? And you're creating this in your body. You're creating this disaster in your own electronic field, your own emotional field, your own chemistry field inside your body. So what are you shutting down? What do you think you're controlling? You just created an epidemic. That's what you did.
So self-inflicted, basically, majority of it. So it's self-inflicted. And to add to what you say, right? You know, maybe we're not using a proper term. It's not shutting down the emotions. We just identify, why should I feel that way? What if you master that? You'd be like, you know, why should I react that way? Before I react,
it's not a why, it's a how.
Yeah, like, you know, how should I, like I said, like, how do you respond to this? I'm not going to react to it. How am I going to respond to this? You know, it's all based on my response. Because it's like, if you allow somebody to get under your skin, you're basically giving that person power over you, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
You're giving it power over yourself. So it's more like
But before that, and yes, before you go there just a little bit, you're trying to manage it already.
Yeah.
Why? Ask yourself, what is the cause of whatever a person's saying is getting up on your skin? What causes that?
That's what I'm about to say. Yeah,
it's coming from somewhere. It didn't come from this person. It's been there.
Yeah,
because it triggers an experience. Again, the past. Nothing can upset you that hasn't happened yet. Nothing can upset you in the now presence. That's why when you live in the now, in the presence, it is complete joy.
Exactly.
Because there is no reference. That's what living in the now is. It's complete joy. There is no sadness in now.
That's true.
Just think about it. You watch a building catch on fire right now, you feel sad seconds later. Now the building's in the past.
See, that's a hard one to wrap your head around, because we're always living either in the past or in the future, you know, or distracted by past posts that we watch. so now, being in the now, how do we do that? Do we do that through meditation? Do we do that just by taking a breath and enjoying the moment? And you know, that's to be in the now is an art, I would say.
Mentalism.
It really isn't. I mean, you can use all those great words, and it takes training, and it absolutely does. It absolutely can. But let's look at it this way. Let's look at it as something more simply. When you are copulating with someone, when you're with your partner, and you have those passions flowing, and you're with each other, if you're thinking about the last time you guys had sex, you're in trouble. Your relationship's in trouble. If you're thinking about who I could be having sex with instead of my partner, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
So when you're in that type of relationship, I don't know anyone who has thought about something else other than their partner they're being with. And if they are thinking about something else, they already told on themselves of how selfish they are. And they don't need to be with someone to share themselves with. So sex is easy. You could be in the now having sex with a good partner, with your partner. That's Let's look at it that way.
Makes sense. That makes you put it that way. That helped me out.
Yeah, I'm just listening. Like this is like a free session right here. You're like,
Oh, for real? Because like, think about what he just said though.
yeah,
When
but
you're
you know,
having sex, you're
Yeah.
in the now, bro. Like,
yes, you're in it now.
in the now. Like, if you're in the past,
You got a problem.
something's happening, something's wrong right there.
And
Right.
you shouldn't be thinking about anything else when you in the now. You going to as they say Pound Town. You shouldn't be thinking about anything else. You should be focused on it.
Right. So we should apply that same focus in most of what we do, I say.
Exactly.
That was a good one, man. I wonder if people caught that right there.
I don't think so. Because you know what, you're right about that. You know, to credit what Doctor said and Ron said, people will look at social media and that would throw their day off. They go on there, they see something, they watch the news, it would throw their day off because they allowing something from the outside to infect them. And then you look online, and I'm always gonna bash these people. They go online, make these videos with this sad music in the background, and they talking about all these movements. Are you a victim of narcissistic abuse? I'm like, oh God. Yeah, I just learned about this, and it became such a phenomenon. To me, I look at them as people who don't want to take accountability, just looking for a finger to point at. That's what I see.
I think you're missing one. I don't disagree with you, Mike, and I tell you why. I think if you are recognizing that you were the narcissist, prior to that, recognizing whoever you think you with that is some type of person, have you asked yourself the question, how did I get here? I mean, they are what they are, and I'm glad you're now recognizing this person, but how did you get here?
You are what you attract.
Yeah, so start identifying your emotional self.
Yeah.
Because once you identify your emotional self, you can understand yourself and you can stand what you feel like draws you to a narcissist. Then you can manage it.
Exactly. The only reason why I say that, doctor, is because yeah, you're right. My grandmother.
No, Ron is just like, come on, it can't be that simple.
Because everybody use that term so loosely, right? And my grandmother always told me, rest in peace to my grandmother. This is a woman who lost her mother at age 2, who brought the whole family into this country. She could have had excuses. She didn't. She said, before I go out there, sit down and cry and point fingers at people, always remember I'm pointing 3 back at myself. So I have to check myself. You know, I'm not going to sit down and cry victim because you, no matter what happened to you in life, you know, unless you're a child whatsoever, you are a willing participant when you're an adult. You knew what you were doing, what you was getting involved in. Let's stop it. Let's stop the charades. Let's stop the victim mentality. You know, so that's where it's at. Trust me, because Ron and I be speaking like that, and there's a lot of things I learned from him. He said he learned stuff from me, but I don't see that because we got like a big brother, little brother sometimes relationship, or brothers just that bump heads. But I understand. I'm like, you know what? He's saying that for a reason. So let me go address that. You know, I don't take offense to it. I just like, yo, I hear you, but I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm gonna work on that. I got that.
I learned from you to be more empathetic.
Nah, I'm a cold-hearted bastard, man.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know how to turn it off and turn it on, though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, sometimes when things happen, especially with this podcast, I go, man, this person was wilding. You're like, brother, you don't know what's going on over there. This person might be going through this. This person might do that. I'm like, yo, we supposed to be doing this at this time, though. Like, I'm like, yo, we gotta go. Like, what's going on?
I'm like,
like that's why I gave it 10 minutes grace. Because of you. I learned that from you, man.
Yeah, you never know. Because, you know, before we write somebody off as crazy, sometimes you gotta be like, there's something in that person's life that happened. As the doctor say, that they got suspended somewhere. They are stuck somewhere. Like, you know, I'm bringing this up. My father's still stuck back in the 80s with certain things he'd be saying. I'm like, yo, what are you talking about? You know, I can't, you know, I learned how to forgive him, but I'm like, yo, you need to, you know, you got stuck somewhere. And, you know, there's, you know, be honest, issues of narcotics involved. So I'm like, there's something that you're stuck on. You feel me?
But I think a lot like my dad's stuck in the past. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I don't know what, maybe the past was such a great time, like the 70s and all of that.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I be having a joke.
Guys like, nah.
I be joking around because, you know, when I get around a lot of older people, I'm like, was the Coke so pure back then? Like, what was it? The music was good. Like,
no, what it is, when people are stuck in a what you call historical past, it is where they felt strong in that time. It's not the time period. It's where they felt strong. That is what they're remembering. That is why you can still hear some people, I was going to say clowns. I guess I technically did say clown. Anyway, who talks about how great they were in high school basketball, football. Dude, you're 50-something years old. Stop talking about your senior year in high school and how you used to play. I mean, you have to let that go. Good Lord, right? I mean, there's a time limit. It's actually a year. Like last year when I was a senior, I balled out, right? Yeah. After that, it's you got to shut it down. You got to shut it down, you know? And back in my day, if I ever hear that, it's like, poor guy, poor woman. It's sad because it is when they felt strong. And that's fine. And they're holding on to that strength. Mm-hmm. Meaning, and the reason why they're so stuck and holding on to that strength of then, they can never be who they really could be now. Mm. That's the emotional intelligence of holding things down and not allowing yourself to identify yourself, not allowing yourself to understand yourself. And if you don't have that, you can never manage anything that comes before you. So when you face with trauma, well, people who have what you call higher emotional intelligence, they're able to regulate and have more resilience, more adaptability because they know who they are. Once you know who you are, you know what you're capable of and you know what your limitations are. And you can manage that.
Yes. I want to go to the comments. Awareness Daily says, I might have caught that too late, brother. Awareness Daily, tantric sex. I don't know what that was about, brother, but okay. Maybe tantric sex deals with like being in the now, because you gotta feel all that. Yes. Okay, I get what you're saying. Malcolm London says it's about the power of now. Right? Yes, sir.
Yeah. So all those things are just, they are spot on. But like I think Mikey would say, just how are we able to do that? We could read about it. We can hear about it, but are we practicing it? So here's how you practice. You take it starts small. Start small before you start doing it out in the world or outside of a protected space. So I would say start in your bathroom, and the bathroom's a smaller place than anything else in your living space. Start out when I brush my teeth. Ask yourself, why do I brush my teeth this way? What am I trying to accomplish? What is do I know the different strokes of brushing my teeth? Do I know how to brush my gums? Do I know how to brush my tongue? Do I know how to brush my palate? Do you know you have more sensory things in your mouth than you do in all parts of your body in one collective space? All these things are information to understand your reason of brushing your teeth. And that comes, we think we might know, But if we talk about what we're doing and what we know about what we're doing, that puts you into the reference of being in the now and why you understand how you're doing it. That slows you down, period. Even washing yourself up. Why do I wash my body? If you realize it, you probably wash your body in the same format. Ask yourself, who taught you that format? Was it that's how you remember being washed as a baby? Like, do you remember why it started your arms or your legs and then your privates? I mean, what is it about how you wash yourself? So start really digging into identifying who you are in this protective space. Yes, Dr. Dyer does this all the time, every time as I move about. That's why my self-awareness has amplified my outer awareness.
Brother Awareness Daily says, is now synonymous with truth.
There is no lie or truth in now. Truth and lie comes from a past.
Ooh,
That's deep right there. Some science right there.
So-
Shout out to Awareness Daily as well. That's deep right there.
where the shots, man? What do we got?
Yeah, that's good. And into the viewers and listeners, don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe. This is some good information. We got a good doctor here that's very, thorough, and he's just dropping bombs, man. Beautiful, man. That's something deep right there. You said.
He says the truth. There's no truth and lie in the now, because truth and lie is now in the past.
Shit. Damn.
So would you say now is like would be synonymous to null energy?
Actually, it's synonymous to it connecting to all energy and all forms of matter.
Okay. Now, in developing being in the present, meditation, it could be one way to develop your ability to be in the present. I would say also, you have any other suggestions with being in the present, like,
Yeah, besides starting in a small place of practice, slow down a half step. If you think you walking slow, or you whatever speed you naturally walk at a half a step slower, and you know why you feel uncomfortable is because you have never been present. It rings an alarm saying, man, I feel like I'm slow. You feel like you're slow because you've never been present. You've always rushed where you're going. But I have to be there at a certain time. I have to get there at a certain time. Then that lets you know you're not leaving in good time. You're leaving in rush time. So why do you feel rushed? Because you're rushing yourself, because you didn't leave yourself adequate time. Well, I had things that come up. So now we're going to keep adding on reasons. I'm not saying they're excuses, but if you get up early enough, you identify the reasons that could cause some lateness, you cure that, and then you move forward. So all this just walking at a half a step allows you to start thinking about who you are and how you can learn to manage, even before you identify.
Makes sense. Now, when taking it to the comments, Dr. Paul Dye, I don't know if you know how this goes, but well, you've been on these platforms before, but like when you're on the live, you got to talk to the chat. So now in relation to the 0 point reference, that's what he's right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And collapsing duality, he's asking. Okay.
What's
Awareness Daily, we need you on the show now, man.
What?
Yeah, we do, man. He be in the comments lighting them up.
Yeah.
What does he want to know about 0 point? I think that's
well, he's saying is now
because
is now and being in the now in relation to the 0 point.
So, is first of all, he's referring to things that are in quantum mechanics. So, mostly, if you don't know who I am, one of my PhDs is in physics, and I'm a theoretical physicist. So, when you're talking about 0 point energy, you're talking about a quantum mechanical system that allows people to now choose from which dynamic point it can go from here to there. So that allows the Heisenberg theory to, it's really called the Heisenberg uncertainty theory, which allows things to now, let's not get too scientific, but to have what you call fluctuate, calculate the fluctuations. So he's talking about as if the 0 point fall into duality, where it could, but it has to still be the fluctuation of the energy of the atomic structure, if that makes sense, because it has something to do with atoms and molecules. I hope that answers this question.
Okay. I'm not sure if it answers your question. Awareness Daily. We're gonna move on. Let's move on to the next question. So the impact of trauma on emotional intelligence.
Well, we know how it stalls you. We know how it can disrupt any relationship you have when you don't have emotional intelligence. Now, I dislike the words high emotional intelligence compared to low emotional intelligence, because if you're working on it, you're higher than you were before. So don't worry about what your abilities are compared to. And that's where structures being compared to other structures. So don't compare yourself to someone else's intelligence. Don't do that. That would be something very harmful. So wherever you are is wherever you're starting, wherever your ability is. You just know that you're never ending on this journey. So with that being said, if you are not understanding your trauma, then it's going to be hard to identify your emotions to it. Right now, you just know that my kids upset me, or my job upset me, or my relationship upsets me, or whatever is upsetting you, but you don't know the reason why it's upsetting you. You have to figure that out, right? We've all had breakups. Our kids do this. It's sad. I thought, because sometimes it can come down to as simple as, I never thought my life would be like this. Oh, wow. I didn't know you were that, condescending and egocentric that you thought your life was supposed to be something different. Well, who gave you that idea? Like, so did someone give you that idea, or did you create that idea on your own?
So are there degrees in emotional so there are okay, so he's asking a question. So there are degrees to emotional intelligence measured. It is mathematical?
It can be mathematical because of electronic charge that your brain field has. So yes, it can regulate we can regulate into an EEG. So if I show you something and your brain fires at a different thing because it disturbs you, certain parts of your brain's fire. So that is measurable. If certain parts of your brain's fire, more than the other, then it sends off different type of chemistry. So it is measurable.
That's deep right there, man. So a lot of chemistry involved as well.
Watch this one. Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot. So Dr. Dyer, I was saying what helped me, as I mentioned, was before counseling, but I also got into those books. And one book that stuck out to me was the Kabbalion.
Mm-hmm.
That helped me out a lot. And
what was the mention of that?
Yeah, the Kabbalion and the Stellar Man from John Baines.
I have that one.
Yeah, that one right there meant a lot. The Secret. It's just because I started, I had to, part of therapy is being honest with yourself, which a lot of people, this is why they can't be honest with themselves. They got to admit, well, I was wrong. I fell short. I underperformed. Maybe I failed to pick up on this. So that's part of the recovery phase.
Mm-hmm.
Awareness Daily, yeah, Kabbalah.
Yeah, Kabbalah.
Yeah, he's asking the Kabbalah. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I see where he's going. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You want to read one more, because I know we're about ready to cut off here.
Yeah. All right, let's go with recovery and building emotional intelligence. What role does emotional intelligence play in recovering from trauma?
I don't like to. I have never used the word recovery. I think it's a false fallacy. I think recovery means that you were sick. Recovery means you were sick. I think healing means you are understanding your process. Technically, nothing recovers. It just keeps healing. You may think your skin recovers from a cut, but yet cells are always still forming, even though it looks like the skin is closed. It is still healing collectively, shedding skin, shedding different things. It's always redoing itself. Remember, you shed your whole body in 2 weeks. You have a whole new skin system in 2 weeks. So you're always healing and adapting. So recovery means like there's an end to it. Like, I'm recovered, I guess I'm done. There is no end. So I dislike the word recovery. But to answer the question is, you're always in a healing process, and be okay with that.
Got you. Well said.
Power in words, man. That's what it's all tied into, the power in words.
Case study and personal stories. Could you share any stories or case studies that illustrate the relationship between emotional intelligence and trauma?
Oh my goodness, there's tons of case stories, but I'll share something very personal. I mean, I got into understanding brain science because of my own human life, being molested as a young boy for about 2 years, from ages from 8 to 10, and then joining the military, going into combat, dealing with loss of lives and lives that were taken. Those things, or even as a 13-year-old boy growing up in New York, having my best friend get his chest blown out because we were standing next to each other near bodega, having friends overdose. All those are very traumatic feelings. My mother being diagnosed with cancer, only having 2 years to live. That is traumatic. So I've had those traumatic issues. We all could or have, but I want to go into not just knowing that I could manage it or push through. I want to understand the effects of how it's affecting my body, my brain, and everything external. Because once you understand how it affects the internal, you can know how it's processing into the external. So that's how I got into where I'm at right now. Now I'm so deep into understanding and living and the science part of it that I do want to share with you people to understand that you too can understand who you are. Don't give up on that. Don't ever give up understanding who you are, because know thyself will lead you to your next land.
Beautiful. That's beautiful, right there. Very inspirational, and that's real. Very beautiful. Know yourself is most importantly. Do not get distracted by what's going on outside. Only person you're really responsible is yourself.
Now, I'll cite one of these case studies in my head, which really is about, because I study epigenetics and trauma. It's called the mouse study, and the mouse study is they electronically put a pulse on this female mouse to go down a certain path inside the maze.
All right. Peace. Canaan Land in the building, brother Cujo.
Cujo in the building.
Oh, they have difficulty.
Keep up the great work. Thank you, Canaan Land. Cujo. Dr. Paul Dyer, you froze. We didn't get what you said at the end.
Okay, so there's a mouse study of a female mouse. They put electrodes on it and gave it commands and watch it go through the maze. And they, with electric shocks, where they didn't want the mouse to go, where the mouse could go, and the reward system of where it goes. So that was this one female mouse. Every generation that this mouse had birth, they didn't have to shock anymore. It was already passed down in its genetics where the offspring could go and not go, and it went the same way without being taught what not to touch, what not to touch. They had already had the experience from the mother passing down a genome code. This has happened for 5 generations. The 5th generation from this one mouse, 5 generations later, those offspring still knew where not to go and where to go. So you are passing down male and female to your offspring of what your experiences are doing to your internal body. And the only reason why you're passing it down because you have not identified it. No messages gets passed down if it's been identified.
Okay. All right. So we're gonna end right there. That's the show, y'all, man. That was a thorough show. You gotta rewind and keep rewinding. Everybody watch this episode over and over and over again.
Important
notes, because this was a great one right here. Thank you, Dr. Paul Dyer, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Hope to have you back again. And talk to you soon. Peace, everybody. We got another interview right after this. Peace.
Peace, people. Love.